Today on Missing Number, Gorilla Ghosts.
No, he's gonna get banned! Oh, he got banned! Oh my god, leave!
The CarnEvil cult.
I am definitely obsessed with Sailor Mercury.
And is Jason Voorhees in Saints Row 2? Missing Number starts now. Playing tag as a kid is both fun and frightening. The act of someone chasing you as you run for your life is heart-pounding, and in a game called Gorilla Tag, playing tag is unintentionally terrifying. Gorilla Tag is a kid's VR game where you play tag as gorillas. It's cute and family-friendly, but otherwise, nothing remarkable. That all changed, however, after August 2021, when children were being terrorized by ghost gorillas in the game. These eerie gorillas exhibited strange behaviors and characteristics. They would make creepy noises and music, warn players of impending doom, rapidly change their name and skin color, abnormally twist and turn their heads around, had unusually long arms, could fly, teleport, and clip through the map, and they could even allegedly kick or ban you from the game. Here are some of the most well-known ghost gorillas that have been encountered in the wild. The most infamous ghost gorilla is one called PBBV, and it's the first ghost to appear in Gorilla Tag. It can be seen on a bridge in the forest, and has salmon-colored skin. Its gait is slow and robotic, and it makes strange creepy sounds. Additionally, it says things in a demonic, distorted, or robotic voice.
It doesn't listen to you, it's an AI. I'm gonna break my arms just to capture him.
Yeah, see, look, he keeps getting teleported back!
What?
PBBV has the ability to fly, change its name, turn players invisible, glitch the player board, slow down users, and it can even cause lag.
Oh wait, my game just lagged for a second.
I
I don't know what's going on. I turned invisible for some reason. Look at the scoreboard.
I think
What
it's
the
him.
hell is going on, dude?
Yeah, because look, that's...
I doubt it's gonna launch. What is he doing? Hey guys, What the? He just went through that. He's going around the tree. Whoa. Is there someone in there? Whoa. Bro, where is this man going? No! No! Oh,
Guys, this is creepy. This is... Dude, his color just keeps on changing.
What's more, it will either point at you or point to a random person on the player board, causing that person to ostensibly get kicked or banned from the game.
Wait, who's he gonna point at? Oh!
Someone just got kicked.
Fred got kicked!
Tagging the ghost can also get you banned for a day, and even getting near it may cause you to get kicked to a loading screen, which will show a gorilla's face with red eyes, instead of the typical black ones. What's more, PBBV can even supposedly grab your IP address. While PBBV can join any server, which requires codes to be entered at an in-game terminal, players have reported seeing the ghost in these specific servers. Other well-known ghosts include Daisy09,
what the hell?
Bro, what? Yo, hold on.
Is this a real Daisy09? Oh, he came down! Oh,
That's sick. Bro.
Tag him.
he came down. No, don't tag him. What's he doing? Where'd he go? Bro, where'd he go?
Yo, look, he's flying around.
Oh, shoot. I'm scared. Oh my god! He turned on music, bro. Wait, what is he doing? Do your spin thing. Yo! Oh my god! Yo!
What does Daisy even do? What does Daisy do?
No, he's gonna get banned! Oh, he got banned! Wow! It's the real Daisy! This is the coolest moment of my life!
Who are you gonna point at, huh? Huh? Who are you pointing at?
No, not me. Yo, what happened? Did I get kicked?
Tiptoe,
Yeah, my last video, it got a lot of views. What the heck? Not again, bro. Not again. I had Daisy on my last video, and now on this one. bro. What the?
I think I still
Whoa!
Let's save a run.
Echo.
He looks like he's actual. I think he might be the actual Echo. He might be the actual Echo.
Oh, run! Look. What?
JV3U.
What the? Oh, what the? It's him! Wait, what?
What is that?
Oh, no. Oh shit, you're dead. Bro, you're dead. You're dead. It's GG's for you. Listen, man, you were cool while you lasted.
See, it's real.
He just got kicked. You know, because he's just like...
He's putting it
Warning bot.
Oh, look at this. Oh, PvP run, ride hard, and sprint.
Turn off your device's emergency broadcast. Please listen to this broadcast very carefully.
This is not drill. PPDB has returned into guerrilla attack, so has J3DU. This is serious.
Warning, I am here to tell you do not panic. There is a hacker that can go.
Phone numbers and emails. We suggest leaving the server immediately to avoid this.
This is warning.
Oh, what the fuck? That's a Morse code. That's a Morse code. He fucking me. He fucking...
Oh, hell no, bro. You stay away from me, dog.
Statue/Mirror Man.
Bro, what? Nothing happens? Bro.
What do you want?
What the frick? It actually kicked me out. There's like 2 other people in my lobby, but they're all gone. Statue just left. He just left.
Then if you go over there,
Nemo.
Okay, what is going on? The heck is going on? I can barely walk, bro. It's so laggy. This is Nemo, bro. Everybody leave the server, else you will get banned. Do not touch them. Do not touch them. You will get banned. Guys, it made us run so slow. It was annoying.
Social security number.
oh, well, he can't get. Wait, what is his name? Yeah, the name is Nemo.
Hey, yo.
Okay, so out of all the hackers,
Dude, look at this. Look here.
the most unique, then better.
They're spawning up there now.
What?
Wait, look at this white monkey. There's one white monkey. There's always one white monkey.
Banshee.
Bro, you're definitely safe.
Hello, Noah. You live at Kenyatta, Ontario, Mississauga.
That was my exact location.
Hello? Who is this?
Are you killing me?
He's using platforms.
Really? No, actually don't.
Meanwhile, some of the more obscure ghosts include SCP-096,
Hello? Now that's creepy, bro. What the? Dude, what the heck, dude?
Twin.
What the heck? What the heck? No! Oh my god, what? No! Yo, wait. Whoa.
Hold up.
Yo. The heck? Wait. Wait, no, don't touch them. Oh, shoot. Oh, they're coming! Run, dude!
Spider.
Guys! Oh, okay, no. I actually, for real, can't take this anymore.
No. Bro, he's on the ceiling.
No way.
B.
Ooga chaka.
Really, bees? Really?
I've been bees.
You see what?
Look at this! Look at the computer!
It's not letting you type anything. Oh yeah, it only says bees.
While these ghosts are certainly weird and spooky, it turns out that they're just a hoax. A YouTuber named Chip Banjo was the one that created the first ghost, PBBV. However, it initially wasn't even a ghost at all. It was just meant to be radio noise coming from a siren in the game, and that noise was given the name PBBV. The noise can be heard in Chip Banjo's first video, which was published on August 6, 2021. Before this video, however, another video was uploaded that showed a character flashing on the screen, but due to epilepsy concerns, the video was removed. Shortly after, a Reddit user named VRPlayer100 made a creepypasta post about PBBV, which transformed the radio noise into a physical entity that took the form of a creepy ghost gorilla. Days later, on August 23, 2021, a YouTuber named J McCurley made a viral video about PBBV. More and more players ended up encountering the ghost, and eventually, mischievous players pretended to be the ghost to troll and scare impressionable kids.
That's real. Oh god, he's pointing someone.
What are you already?
It's real. Wait, should I kiss it?
The game's community then ended up creating more ghosts, like Daisy09, which was made possible thanks to mods and soundboards. It's also speculated that hackers use tools or scripts to find players' IP addresses. As for ghosts supposedly banning players, only the game's developer can do that. And regarding players getting kicked, there's apparently a mod that lets you do that. Despite the ghosts being trolls and modders, not all ghosts turn out to be fake. In an official Halloween update, a ghostly skeleton named Lucy was added to the game. It would chase players and lift them up in the air before disappearing. This was possibly a fun nod to the gorilla ghosts, but now it appears that the novelty of the ghosts has worn off, and players are now sick and tired of them.
Bro, it's fake. Do something. Hey.
If you head to the Gorilla Tag subreddit, you'll find creepypasta ghost posts filled with commenters saying shut the f up. In a post-mortem, Chip Banjo lamented how his alternate reality game got completely derailed and blasted VRPlayer100 for turning his ARG into, quote, a punching bag.
I want to move away from PBBV. Well, Salmon Colored Monkey is a spin-off version of mine. That's completely different from my ARG. That's just my spin-off. That's just a spin-off of it. I have nothing to do with VR Player, by the way. Too cliche. Making an entire ARG, it's been frustrating. I don't know where to go with the series from now on. Can we just end it at the video called Escaped? Okay, that's kind of what I want to do. End the video, end the whole thing at Escaped. But people are expecting more, and I don't know what to do. I'm conflicted. I'm just like PBBV.
Chip Banjo goes on to say that he made the ARG to, quote, prove the content standards were too low for its own good. Chip Banjo has stopped working on the ARG, which gave him PTSD. Despite this though, he teases that he's working on something big for Gorilla Tag. Extreme Gunner 88, who claims to be Chip Banjo's friend, says Chip Banjo is making a 2.0 version of PBBV, and that all of the character images will be made using Unreal Engine MetaHuman software. Thanks to Cheesy Cheese It for tipping me off about the Gorilla Tag ghosts. Within the crowded city of Stillwater in Saints Row 2 lies an unusually quiet and empty location. No one owns it, including gangs, and no screen notification pops up when entering the area. The place is accessible via a strange off-road dirt path that's barricaded. Following the path leads to an abandoned campsite with dilapidated shacks and a lake with a pier. A few civilians can be seen fishing, but other than that, there's really not much else to this place. However, if you swim to a small piece of land across the lake, you'll find this. The Mask of Jason Voorhees. It soon becomes apparent that this place is based on Camp Crystal Lake from the Friday the 13th horror movie. The mask itself, which is oddly referred to as bones, can be picked up, but once you walk a certain distance, the mask will suddenly transform into a human skull. You can throw the skull, or melee with it, but it ostensibly doesn't do anything. Despite this, however, rumors have circulated for years that if you throw the mask or skull into the lake, Jason would spawn and kill everyone in the area with a machete. The lake itself is actually filled with toxic waste, as evidenced by this barrel and a two-headed fish that can be seen swimming around. It's pretty bizarre, but in one Friday the 13th movie, Jason does drown in toxic waste. Some have claimed that knocking the radioactive waste barrel into the lake, or throwing the skull in the barrel, would cause Jason to be reborn. However, after trying this myself, nothing happened. I even knocked NPCs into the water as sacrifices and killed people with the skull, but still, nothing happened. While Jason never appeared during my investigation, there were some strange anomalies. A red dot appeared in the lake on the minimap, indicating there was something in the water. However, the red dots were most likely pedestrians walking through a car tunnel that was underneath the campsite. The campsite itself was on a mountaintop. There was also another time when an NPC that was fishing on the pier suddenly panicked and ran away for no apparent reason. Sometimes additional NPCs spawn in the area as well, but they would suddenly vanish into thin air. One of the more shocking videos is from a YouTuber named CFox306, who recorded random dead bodies floating in the lake, and even NPCs falling into the lake. Elsewhere in the area were two gravestones that display the name of the game's environment art coordinator, Tim Watson. The name was accompanied with a message that read, "Soak in some rays." Destroying the tombstones, however, did nothing. According to CFox, the Jason rumor originated from a player who found the mask sometime in October or December of 2008. Players would eventually be able to obtain the mask and dress like Jason by purchasing DLC. CarnEvil is an obscure 90s Lycon arcade horror game, and fittingly, there's a creepypasta behind it that's allegedly true. The game was developed by the now defunct Midway Games, and it contained gory violence and dark humor. The game was set in Iowa as you battled your way through a haunted carnival that was filled with enemies like zombies, dinosaurs, Krampus, deranged scientist clowns, and a giant murderous baby. CarnEvil became a huge hit as it surpassed sales of Mortal Kombat 4. However, despite the success, CarnEvil surprisingly never got a sequel or a home console version. There's been online chatter of strange things hiding in CarnEvil, but possibly the strangest thing about the game was a story that was posted on 4chan's Paranormal board on June 13, 2020. An anonymous user claimed that CarnEvil was made by Midway developers who were part of a right-wing Celtic pagan folk cult. The 4chan poster joined the cult around 1998 and was a quartermaster and steward living in an Iowa compound. His job was to acquire basic supplies like weapons, food, fuel, and ammunition. The cult included outcasts like anime geeks and Dungeons & Dragons nerds. Some of the older cult members were previously a part of Chicago gangs, including the Taylor Jousters, the Almighty Gaylords, Stone Freaks, and Uptown Rebels. The cult had various chapters in several US states, like Michigan, Kentucky, Iowa, and Chicago. The Chicago chapter was the biggest with 50 members, and Chicago was where Midway's headquarters was located. There was also a Canadian chapter that was led by a man named Greg, who was obsessed with Sailor Mercury. He had a dorky demeanor that was said to be a ruse to fool people. He can be seen in this special news segment about otaku. This was before he became a cult leader.
I am definitely obsessed with Omni Mizuno, Sailor Mercury.
Overall, the cult worshipped Lug, Ekna, the Dadya, and Morrigan. Some of the rituals involved candlelighting, bloodletting, animal/human sacrifices, and sadomasochistic gay and straight s***. The 4chan poster reveals that several people inside of him, and that the cult watch hardcore S&M films and a hentai series called Erotsuki Doji, which is credited to popularizing tentacle s***. Cultists also watched extremely dark and violent anime, movies, and TV shows. The cult believed that games and movies could be used as propaganda and mind control to make people warriors of gods. Zombie movies were also consumed to help prepare for a doomsday event. Additionally, live-action role-playing was done for psychological training, but it was ineffective.
Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Sleep! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Sleep! Lightning bolt!
In 2002, the poster left the cult, and he doesn't know if it's still around. During his time at the cult, he said that he had a roommate named Rowan that worked on CarnEvil at Midway. In the game's credits, a man named Rowan Attila is listed as working on the game's background movies and animation. While it's uncertain if Attila is the cultist in question, there was allegedly another cultist that worked on CarnEvil, and it wasn't Greg or Jackie Hager, who was the brainchild of CarnEvil. The two cult devs who worked on CarnEvil allegedly hid secret messages, coded references, and shocking footage in a cut level of the game that only members of the cult would understand. The cut level was called Tunnel of Love, and proof of its existence is the level's music that can be found in the game's code. The level was meant as a summoning ritual that blended sex and violence. Some of the footage and images in the level include scenes from The Wicker Man, Born to Raise Hell, Cannibal Holocaust, Legend of Lion Flare, and Erotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend. Other footage included a GIF version of a politician named Bud Dwyer shooting himself in front of reporters and cameras. Midway found out about the content and decided to completely remove the level from the game. What's more, the game's files contain a picture of Sailor Jupiter as a placeholder image for the Rickety Town stage. Another Sailor Moon character named Princess Serenity is also listed in the special thanks section of the credits. Not only that, but there's even a photoshopped image of Jeffrey Dahmer holding a bloody bag that contains the decapitated head of Midway CEO Neil Nicastro. A console port of CarnEvil was reportedly in the works for PC and PS2, but it never saw the light of day. According to the 4chan poster, it was a remake/sequel that was being made by a third-party studio which had ties to the cult. Midway caught wind of this, however, and decided to cancel the port. What makes this creepypasta interesting and credible sounding is that not only is it very detailed, but there are some things that are true. A console port of CarnEvil was indeed in the works, and images of Sailor Jupiter and Jeffrey Dahmer are actually in the game's files. There also was a Tunnel of Love stage that was removed, but it's not because of any disturbing cult-related content. In the comment section of a YouTube video about the CarnEvil cult, Scott Pekulski, who was CarnEvil's art and 3D designer, left a comment explaining, quote, "We cut the Tunnel of Love because it sucked, and we're trying to finish the game before the trade show. Sorry, no conspiracy." Pekulski also addressed the Sailor Moon stuff by saying that a team member was just a fan of the anime. And as for the console port of the game, there was no consumer game other than the concept treatment. In a 2018 Games Radar interview about CarnEvil, Pekulski elaborated, quote, "There was a home game in development, but instead of a straight port, the company doing it wanted to create an original game using the IP. It was very strange." It may be strange, but there's no hard evidence that CarnEvil is being made by a cult. It's hard to imagine that cultists infiltrating a famous multi-million-dollar company could be kept a secret for 20 years. The story is just too over the top, but it does bring to mind cases like the Nexium cult, in which Smallville actress Allison Mack was a part of. There's also Scientology, and the Bohemian Grove footage that was filmed by Alex Jones. It showed a bizarre occult ritual that included an owl god and human effigies being burned. So it's not completely far-fetched that a person that had some sort of connection with the cult was working at a game company, but a cultist working on a game that was made for recruitment and indoctrination to turn people into warriors of gods? It's unlikely. Thanks to Trauma Loop for the tip about the CarnEvil cult.